Hey, welcome to the show, Leading and Growing Your Real Estate Business. This is Coach James Short, aka Shorty, and this is a show for those within the real estate industry wanting to lead and grow their real estate business. It's a series of interviews that we conduct for those within the industry. So we're finding out what those leaders are within the industry, what makes them tick, what's their story, what are their strategies, and how to become the leaders and the growers within the industry. But also, it's an interview series with those outside of the industry. I'm always a big believer of looking at a whole different part of the pie rather than just focusing on one part of the pie. Because what it does, it allows you to have a different perspective, allows you to get snippets or golden nuggets from those outside of the industry that can look into the industry and go, there's a different perspective. And so I encourage you to reach out to the guests. I encourage you to lean into these series to find out how can these pieces of information, experiences, stories help you lead and grow your real estate business. Welcome back to another edition. And ladies and gentlemen, hold on because you're about to go on an amazing journey. Adrienne Green is a seasoned real estate investor and entrepreneur specializing in helping investors scale their portfolios and achieve financial freedom by running their investments like a business. Oh, love this concept. So true. With a multi-million dollar portfolio built through strategic investing and leveraging virtual assistants, she has unlocked the freedom to travel the world with her family. Adrienne's expertise in streamlining operations and systemizing success makes her a sought-after mentor, speaker, and coach. Go and check her out, adriennegreen.com, and she has an incredible blueprint. It's called the Freedom Blueprint, which 10 essentials for real estate investors. Your free guide to scaling faster and working less at adriennegreen.com. Oh my goodness, so amazing to have you on the show today. Adrienne, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here, James. I look forward to our conversation.
Fantastic. So share with the listeners where are you dialing in from today?
I am in Da Nang, Vietnam right now, actually.
Traveling the world.
Yes.
How long you been over there for now?
Been in Vietnam for about 6 weeks. We have a couple more weeks here before we go to Korea for a week and then go spend a couple months in Japan.
This is the joys of what you can do when you set yourself up and live what you preach, which is awesome. Let's go back to though how it all got started for you. What sparked that interest? What sparked that interest in investing and creating a portfolio, and in particular in the real estate space? What's that journey been like?
Right. Well, honestly, the great thing about real estate is it's so fabulous for wealth building that you almost can't go wrong, I feel like. So I got started really because I wanted more time and location freedom than I had at the moment. So my background is, I worked in finance and then I was actually a high school math teacher. And when it came time that I wanted to start my own family, I didn't want to, leave the little babies I was going to have to go work with other people's children. And so I was looking for how can I not do that, right? How can I choose when I'm going to be where in my own life? And so that started off with just renting my basement. Honestly, it was like for an extra $1,000 a month, but that was income that was coming in no matter where I was or what I was doing. And so started off with renting that basement, realized that this money from real estate investing was in terms of, renting something out and getting that rental income was the easiest money that I made. So that progressed to uh, buying rentals near where I lived, right? Starting small, starting with self-managing. Then that progressed to buying a short-term rental that was long distance. And that's when I really had to kick it up a notch. That's when this wasn't just a hobby anymore. That's when I realized, hey, what got me here was kind of doing this like a hobby. And that's not going to get me there where I want to go. And so that's when I started realizing, hey, I have to run this like a business. I've got to figure out systems. I've got to figure out, a team. I've got to figure out the tech so that I can continue to scale and grow without working 24/7.
Wow, love it. And so paint the picture of where things are at for you because you've got, you're doing your own investing, but you also got speaking and mentoring and so forth. So where is life like for you right now?
Right. So, between my husband and myself, what allows us to travel full time is we have really three different endeavors. The first is we have a virtual staffing business because one of the keys to my success as an investor I was a real estate agent as well. So one of the keys that allowed me to go really from being a solo agent, I know you've got a lot of agents in your audience, from being a solo agent to eventually scaling and having a real estate team of agents that I ran and eventually sold as a business in 2023. One of the keys there was using virtual assistants. So we've got a virtual staffing business where we help entrepreneurs get virtual assistants on their team. Second, we've got the investment portfolio, which is a mix of short-term rentals, long-term rentals, and then also some passive investing and hard money lending as well, where we're lending to other people. And then the third thing is I do work as a consultant with other real estate investors to help them do that same thing, to help them run their investing business like a business so that they can grow and scale it.
Yeah. Wow. It's all systems go. But once again, as I said before, you're practicing what you're preaching because you can have now that flexibility of traveling while helping people as well. So which is amazing. Let's talk about that investing and let's talk about that journey where, when people come to you, what's their biggest frustrations? Where are they at and what's their current challenges that they're going through and the reasons why they seek you out?
Right. Often it's that people really are doing everything themselves and they're feeling that pain, right? They're
Mm.
feeling that stress of dealing with the emergencies, dealing with the fact that they don't have, a great line actually from Brandon Turner, who's very big in the real estate investing space, is that if you're feeling stress, it's because you don't have a system for something, right? If something stresses you out, it's because you don't have a system. And so that is what's going on is that people are coming to me because they're feeling all that stress. They're annoyed with that. And it's because they don't have a system and they don't know where to start. And I get it because, if you're at level 0 or level 1, and you see something at level 10, you can be like, oh, that's amazing. Like people can see that, hey, I have these things. I have a family of 5 with 3 kids, and we are going to a new destination roughly every month, right? And like, how do I handle all that? Well, it's because I have systems, it's because I have the virtual assistants, and it's because I use a lot of tech to help do as much as it can. But they see that at level 10 and they don't know how to get there. And so it's really coming alongside and through either like my online class about working with virtual assistants or, group or one-on-one coaching, we can go step by step at step and give them just what they need to get to the next step. Because how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
I think that's so important because people see that as you said that 10 and they just get so overwhelmed of not knowing what's that next step and how do I get there and they want those results right away. But as you said, if you
Mhm.
actually walk and guide them through, hey, let's just focus on step 2, and then they can see that progress and see that journey of, oh wow, yeah, right. I can now have that hope that I will get to that step 10, that level 10, because they can see that, as you said, that roadmap and that progress. You're working with your VA teams, which is, I love it. It's you're singing my song there. Where do you
Mhm.
find most people fall down though in relations to getting a VA team, managing a VA team? Where do you see some of those pitfalls that people face? Obviously outside of your program, but others that work and manage VA teams. What do you think is the pitfalls?
Awesome. Great question. Because, we've had this virtual staffing business for 3 years. So we've been able to kind of see and look at the data of where do people succeed with virtual assistants and where do they not succeed with virtual assistants. And I'm sure you would believe this, James, because I know with the coaching work you do, it is so funny to me. I mean, it's sad how many people will sign up for our virtual staffing, have a full-time virtual assistant, and pay for this sometimes for months and give their virtual assistant zero work that whole time. Uh, and and so there's a lot that goes into that. And so I'd
Mm.
say two of the keys that we have seen and differentiated that, or I guess I'll give you three that set up people for success so that people can see, hey, am I at a high risk of failing or not? Is the first is committing to a full-time virtual assistant. We originally, with our agency, offered part-time and full-time, and we thought, oh, people will start with part-time and they'll get used to it and they'll progress to full-time. No one did. No one did.
Wow.
And our cancellation rate, or subscription length was much shorter with part-time because I think it wasn't a big enough step that people committed to it, right? It was like just kind of being on the steps of the pool rather than jumping in the deep end. So they didn't commit. So that's one thing I say if somebody wants to set themselves up for success with a virtual assistant, I guarantee everyone has 40 hours a week of admin work that a virtual assistant could do.
Oh
Everyone
yeah.
does. Especially in the real estate space. I mean, as a real estate agent, I could say, I know you've got so much on the back end, contract to close process, marketing, all of that. So first, I'd say going all in with a full-time virtual assistant was one of the keys to success. Second, somebody who is used or has experience already with some sort of team. And that was challenging with the real estate agent space because so many real estate agents are solopreneurs, right? They've never done a joint venture or partnership or had anyone work for them. And so if you're going from being a solopreneur, I think there are two aspects that make it difficult to jump to using a virtual assistant. The first is that mental aspect, right? Realizing that it's okay but for someone else to do the work, that honestly someone else can do the work possibly better than you can, right? Like my example for that is always my email newsletters. I hated those. I spent so much time doing those.
Yeah.
When I was first a solo agent, setting those up, formatting them. I mean, I'd be like trying to like I try to do it in my extra time when I'm supposed to be watching TV with my family or whatever, and it was just tedious. So that was something my virtual assistants can do faster, better, easier than I can. So there's the mental aspect of working with a team that solopreneurs, I think, struggle with. And then the second aspect is the logistics, right? The actual how do I task someone? How do I get something off my plate? How do I get what's in my head into someone else's head? So those were the things that I think really people struggled with when they're a solopreneur. So I'd say people committing to full time, and then if you're only a solopreneur right now, that's fine. Just realize you've got those two extra hurdles and be mindful of that as you start working with a virtual assistant.
Hey guys, just a little side note here. How's it going? Are you on track this year? I know that sometimes this part of the year we can feel like we're in a bit of a grind, a bit of in the trenches. Are you on track from the original plans that you set out for the rest of this year? What I've realized is that between with this time of year, we get so distracted and we've got trying to chase so many shiny balls and go down so many rabbit holes. And that's why I created a program called the 90. It's a framework that actually allows you to achieve more in 90 days than ever before. Some of the feedback that we've got from some of the people that have used the process, the 90, is that they've achieved more in 90 days than the whole previous year. So if you'd like to have the tools, have the techniques, have the framework on the 90, so you and your team can achieve more in 90 days than ever before. What it does, and it impacts you of how to get clear, what you need to do, and who you need to be to show up in order to achieve the things you want to achieve over the next 90 days. Simply head over to jamesshort.com.au, click on join the waitlist, fill in your details, and one of the team members will be in touch and take you through the 90 framework. On with the show. Fantastic. Yeah, that's so true. I love that. Love those insights. A lot of the audience are obviously in the real estate space. So they're dealing with property day in, day out. And what I see so often is that they're more willing or more prepared to buy a new fancy car or the latest suit or go away on the next European holiday than to actually
Mhm.
set up their investment portfolio for the long term. What would you say to those potentially could be listening to like setting themselves up because they're in the real estate space, so they've got product awareness and product knowledge and playing that longer game for setting their investment portfolio up? What would you say to that? And what would be maybe one or two steps for help them to get started?
Right. And you're so right. Real estate agents, we can love our bright, shiny objects, right? Our fancy toys, rather than setting that money aside and having it accumulate and buying that investment property. So what I would say first is real estate agents are not the only ones like that. That's really the natural human condition. And I will say that for me, what built up that discipline to the point of real estate investing was having, I guess, learning about budgeting and financial responsibility and saving to invest in the first place, right? So that's the first step is if you do not have a budget, right? If you are not tracking what's coming in and what's going out and where it's going out to, then that's the first step. And so using that first step, tracking where your money's going. And this is like I mean, I did it was a little while ago, and they didn't have as many great tech tools for that as they do now. So, use technology as your friend there. There are so many apps and other programs where you just connect your bank accounts and they tell you, you're not putting these transactions in manually. I did it all with an Excel sheet originally back in the day, and I was putting every transaction in, and it's like, don't do that. Don't do that. Use technology and start with having a budget. Start with tracking because you get great money coming in and you're probably having more go out than you want. So start with a budget and set aside money to save. Then pay down any of your high interest debt first. If you've got any credit card debt, if you have anything other than really a home mortgage or maybe a car payment, pay all of that down and then start setting aside the rest to save and educate yourself on real estate investing. Because I will say also, and I say this with love to my real estate agent friends, right? A lot of real estate agents just, if they do have the money that they've saved, they do have that extra money, they just buy random real estate. They don't actually educate themselves on good real estate investing and thinking about what are your goals? Are you wanting to, leave being a real estate student? Do you want to like invest for cash flow or do you want to invest for long-term wealth for appreciation? Start with that goal, educate yourself on the strategies that will help you reach that goal, choose one and follow it diligently. And that's the other thing I'd say is don't just buy any property that comes along. Educate yourself on good real estate investing.
I think that's so important. And, that whole discipline around, sticking to that budget, sticking to that plan, and then the education side of things, because I see so often is they get a lot of people get stuck in that path of the thinking of knowing real estate, but it's usually they know real estate in their area, which they buy and sell for clients. So it's like looking at what are the different trends and what's the resources and education that I need to expand that context and expand, well, what else is out there? And as you said, what is my strategy? Is it cash flow? Is it long term? So there's so many different things that can learn and really dig deep in that knowledge space. I think that's so important. In relations to a case study, in relations to someone that you've helped, from that starting to taking them on that journey, can you share maybe one or two case studies that you're super excited or super proud of that actually went through that process with you?
Great question. So, yes, think of a, let me think of the best one. All right. So, so I was most recently based in Chattanooga, Tennessee, in the US. And I had the pleasure of working with both long distance and in-person investors there. And I think you hit on a great thing, with your last statement as well, James. So often real estate agents are familiar with what's in their market and not what things are like in other markets. And it may be that for your real estate investing, it's best to invest in a market other than your home market. And another thing, if you decide to go that route, is realize that a lot of real estate, we can have that saying of like real estate is local, right? And both laws and trends or customs are also specific in their market. And so, I had a lot of real estate agents that I would help with investing in Chattanooga, and they could sometimes be the most troublesome clients because they just took things for granted. They didn't take it seriously enough, right? And they didn't
Yes.
realize the differences. And so there was one agent from Chicago who she and her husband wanted to invest in real estate um, in my area of Chattanooga because it was a more landlord-friendly market, so that's something to keep in mind. And it was more investor-friendly, and they wanted something easy, long-term rental. They were going to put with a property manager, and so I was able to work with her, help her find a property, and get all that, which was what I did as an agent. But then on the consultant side, I was able to help her be like, okay, well, let's talk about what's the property manager going to do for you, right? And then what do you need to do to manage the property manager? Because so often people think, oh, I'm just going to get a property manager in there. I'm going to press the easy button. I never have to look at it. And so we talked about, okay, what's our system for reviewing, the numbers that come in every month, right? And then you have, well, the property manager they're the one getting paid initially from the tenant. The money's coming to you. So what system do you have for your accounting, right? You can start with free options like Stessa, and then once you get a few doors, you really want to be using QuickBooks. That is the gold standard there. So what's our system for checking on these finances monthly? What's our system for making sure you've got it set up monthly so when tax time comes, it's not a huge mess getting everything figured out for your accountant, and so that you can do financial forecasting along the way because you know where you stand, right? And then as you grow, what's your system for evaluating other markets, right? Are you doing that all yourself, or are you maybe having a virtual assistant who's going in and helping find markets and running numbers on property so then you can just come in and do that high level work, right? They're pulling the details, they're doing that research, they're putting it in like a spreadsheet or, a task management portal for you to then review, right? Let's get that part of it. And then, like I just said, spreadsheet task management portal. What tech are we going to use to make this really easy? Because when you start talking about a team too, or virtual assistants, right, they're not going to be able to see that piece of paper you've got, and honestly, you're in a better system if you're using tech because then you can say, hey, I think I evaluated this property a year ago. Let me go back and look at that. And it's a whole lot easier to go back and find, that spreadsheet from a year ago than it is to find that piece of paper. So that was working with this one specific agent and kind of going through, and they weren't really big at that time. They had a few long-term rental doors, but that can be a really nice time before you're in what I call like the messy middle of you've got so many properties, but you feel like what was a hobby is now taking all your free time. And so you're either thinking about, I'm going to be stuck here because I can't do any more work myself. I'm going to sell it all because this is not the life I wanted. It's not giving me the freedom I wanted. Or I'm going to do the work to organize this as a system so I can keep scaling.
Yeah, I love that. And that's where those three key components is the education, the VA, and the tech all works
Mhm.
so succinctly with each other because they all talk to each other and you're all on that same
Mhm.
page. So good. So what's coming up? What's the next 12, 24 months for you guys look like? Any chunky
Right.
projects, any exciting things on the horizon?
Well, one of the big things, James, is that we're in March now as we're recording this. I started traveling over a year ago with my family, and we started traveling internationally June of last year. And we committed to 1 year of traveling internationally and reevaluating, but we're enjoying it so much, we're going to keep on going. And um, we haven't made it to Australia yet, so we're still working on that,
Good.
getting that in the future plans. So we want to keep going. So the first thing in the next year is I'm going to continue traveling internationally with my family. We're really enjoying this. It's great for my kids. They are so close. They're learning so much. That's going to keep happening. And so then the question is with the other endeavors, how that will work with traveling full time. So on my investing side, I mentioned at the beginning, I think that part of my investing portfolio is hard money lending. And so we're actually going to focus on growing and scaling that hard money lending environment. With it being a high interest rate environment, it's a great time to be the lender.
Yep.
So we're focusing on that in terms of the real estate investing side. I am continuing to help investors, right, with my own business, with the online classes and in-person speaking. And then, yeah, I think those are three things: travel full time, investing wise, we're going to scale up hard money lending and keep helping people.
So good. So good. So Adrian, on the show, we have our 60-second quiz to find out a little bit more about our guests. Are you willing to play?
Hmm.
All right.
Yes, let's go.
Let's go. Favorite movie?
The Harry Potter series. My kids and I enjoy watching them together.
So good. Favorite food?
Tiramisu.
Ooh, yum, yum. Favorite
Yes.
holiday destination?
We are loving Da Nang, Vietnam, and could definitely see coming back here.
Yeah, nice. And do you have a morning routine?
The Miracle Morning Savers routine, if the listeners here haven't read the book, The Miracle Morning, definitely go check it out.
Love it. What about your evening routine?
Either reading or watching a show in Spanish, maybe with the kids. As a family, we're all working to be fluent in Spanish this year. So when we do take some downtime to watch TV, we do it in Spanish.
That's a great concept. I love that. I love that. And do you have a most embarrassing moment?
Now this something that happened within the last few months was pretty darn embarrassing. So one of my children can get queasy if their blood sugar gets too low, and we made that very long. Uh, trans-Pacific flight at the end of December. And she slept on the plane through a couple of the meals. So then we land in the Manila airport after 12 hours of flight time. And Manila, hot and humid. It was packed. We're going through, you got to go through customs and everything and we get our bags and baggage claim. And she's like, I don't feel good. And she just vomits right there in the baggage claim in the Manila airport with all these people around. Um, that was not something I ever thought would happen. A little embarrassing.
Can understand. Understand. If you could choose five inspirational people to have dinner with, who would they be? They could be dead or alive.
I think Richard Branson for sure, Barbara Corcoran, such a powerhouse in the real estate space, Robert Kiyosaki, another powerhouse in the real estate investing space, and these last two are two of my daughter's favorites as well. I think she has good taste. Queen Elizabeth and Martha Stewart, both women who I think have done a great job leading very important organizations and groups, and I could learn a lot from them.
Oh, so true. So true. Do you have a biggest regret?
Not investing in real estate sooner and not running my investments like a business sooner. I mean, I kind of didn't think big picture and piddled around along the way, and it still worked out. And yet I know I could have gotten further faster.
Amazing. Now, if you were president for the day, what's one thing that you would change?
A nationwide financial education program, one that teaches people wealth building skills and the fundamentals of managing their money well.
Oh, I love that. And what's your best piece of advice?
Decisions are easy when your values are clear.
Ooh, drop the mic. There we go. Love it. And so, how can the audience find out more, follow your journey, and get in contact?
James, I'd love if they would go to my website, adriennegreen.com. As you mentioned at the opening, I've got this free freedom blueprint that leads them through the 10 pieces that I put into my portfolio initially to start running it like a business. So we can really help them go from zero to step one, step two. This says, hey, what are those baby steps to get started?
Amazing. Adrian, really appreciate your time, your energy, and expertise on today's show. Thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. That's fantastic. Well
Yeah.
done. So good.
Thank you for this. I was wondering as we were talking, are most of your clients in Australia, or how many like US based real estate agents do you work with?
Yeah, so we have the audience is a real mix between US and Australia. We're getting more downloads and engagement with the US, so which is really quite interesting. Our coaching program hasn't hit the US shores yet, but it's something in that we're looking to get into. Definitely, most of the clients are around Australia, but yeah, definitely looking to expand into the US.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense, As I was just thinking with traveling internationally, it's like there is so much potential with English speaking countries where it's just easier for, another English speaking country to work with you as a coach and everything. And there's so much of the world that's open up to you with that.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for jumping on today. The team will send it through once it's all done and let you know when it goes
Perfect.
live.
Perfect. And the great thing is there's a lot of real estate agents in my audience, and whenever it goes live, we will promote it on social media and everything. So get you in front of some of your ideal client as well.
Awesome. Thank you so
Um,
much.
how else can I help you? What else are you looking for? Are you looking for a certain kind of podcast guest or anything else like that that I can help you with?
Definitely. So definitely, yeah, more podcast guests, more to speak on other podcasts. They're two things that we're really focusing on at the moment as well.
Okay. And who is your ideal guest?
Someone like yourself, someone in that space,
Mhm.
either an agent themselves or someone helping agents in that real estate
Okay.
property space.
Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. I'll do some introductions, okay?
Thank you so much.
All right.
Cool.
Thank you,
All right.
James.
Talk to you
Have a good
soon.
day.
You too. Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye.